Hi everyone, welcome to the Eclipse energy. And so I don't know about you, but it's been very chaotic for me. And so I wanted to jump on here and just talk a little bit about grounding and ways that we can all kind of find our own center here. So just to give a little bit of context on me, and I don't usually reveal a lot of information around myself, one of the struggles that I have, and maybe you do too, it's setting those healthy boundaries, really not letting people take advantage of our kindness, of just our ability to help out and wanting to step up and wanting to take responsibility and just kind of wanting to be there for other people. I know I do it all the time. I'm a Capricorn rising. I will overwork myself to death. And it has definitely come at the expense of my health on more than one occasion. And so for me, this eclipse was a lot of setting healthy boundaries. And it's not even just now. This has been building over the last really couple of years, and I'm hitting the point where if you can't respect me, bye. Like, just bye. That's people, that's situations, it's all of it. And one of the things that I really found to be really helpful was something that I knew would be helpful, but I never really made the time for it, was Reiki. And so I'm only coming on here, I'm not trying to promote Reiki. I am not a Reiki master. Like, I don't do Reiki. I'm not going to promote a specific place to go and get this done. But if it is something that you're interested in doing, I'm going to share my experience with you. So the first time that I did it was back in January, and I thought, let's just try it. We'll schedule a 30-minute session. Let's see what happens. And because I am a Capricorn rising, I spent the first 15 minutes not engaged in the actual session and just going through my to-do list. And Angie, the person doing the Reiki, called it out. She said, you really spent the first 15 minutes going through your to-do list. And fair enough, I did. So I went back a week later and did a 1-hour session because she recommended it. I knew I needed it because I actually did get a lot out of that first session, even though the first half of it was just me not mentally engaged in the entire session. During that next week, I really kind of grounded myself and centered myself to say, okay, this is something that you actually need. You need this in order to cleanse your energy, move forward, kind of really embrace a spiritual path. My spiritual path is becoming louder with each passing day. What I need to do, what I'm here to do, it just becomes louder and louder in my life. And just, I can see it in all the experiences. I can feel it on an everyday basis. I can feel it in my friendships. The friendships where I'm solidifying, the ones that are kind of disintegrating, and all of these kind of different dynamics within my life. And so I'm on here to kind of tell you my experience. Also, if this is something that you're interested in doing, I highly recommend it if this is for you. It's not going to be for everybody if this is something that you want to do. And so in that first experience, I was blown away. We'll say the first 1-hour experience, I was blown away, where I really engaged in it fully. And what I saw during my Reiki session, I'll talk a little bit about when I go into any kind of meditation, which I don't do on a regular basis, not on a regular enough basis, I should say. I always go to a place, and if you're watching this and you know of where I'm talking about, please let me know where this is in Scotland, because I know it's in Scotland and I know that I have been there before, just not in this lifetime. And where I go is there's always a forest, and there's trees, but there's a pathway through the forest. There's a creek that runs alongside of it. There are open fields, and I always find myself sitting on this kind of old log, and it's like one of those hollowed out logs. And I'm typically sitting there and just basking in the sun, because where I'm sitting, there is a lot of sunlight that comes on me, but there's a field nearby, there's the forest, I can walk through the forest, I can sit in the field, I do all of these things. And maybe that's just too vague of a description for that to be identified, but I do know that it's in what is considered Scotland today. I don't know what it would have been, and we'll talk about like prior lives, I'm sure, in a different video, but I do have memories of some of my prior lives, and I do know that this was a place that I routinely went to in order to ground myself. And I still find that today, that I go out and I ground myself by being outside in nature, going into different gardens and going to different places that allow me to kind of be in that type of environment. And so that said, I go in my Reiki sessions, this is where I go. During this 1-hour Reiki session, all of you actually showed up. You as the viewer, as the subscribers, anybody who is on this ascension journey with me, and we're all in it together. I found myself kind of rising up. I was on the earth and I was kind of drifting up, but all of a sudden I felt pulled up. and I was pulled up into just a level. And it's almost as though I was standing on a glass floor and I was able to see beneath me. And then all of a sudden I was pulled up again to another level. And it felt just like that. I was pulled up to another level. And I'm standing on this level, and I remember putting my arm down and I was pulling people. There was nobody there, but I was pulling people up with me. And so it feels like I was pulling people along the journey, along this path with me. And so that was really, that to me was the most amazing piece of that entire Reiki session, was just the ability to move up when I was expelling things from my body. And at one point, Angie, who was doing the session, had instructed me to put it back into my body. I was blowing things into a balloon and I was being instructed to put it back in, and I didn't want to. And I knew I didn't want to. My body was closing it off and saying, no, you got rid of that. You don't need this anymore. So I was letting go of a lot of things. At one point, I think it was one of my old dogs was with me. It was definitely a yellow lab. And so I think it was one of my old dogs. And there was a lot that happened during that session. I came out of it feeling really just rejuvenated and invigorated, exhausted at the same time too, because I'm releasing a lot of stuff. I was releasing this kind of black into a balloon. And that was in January. So both of those sessions were in the month of January. And then because of this eclipse and everything that's been taking place, and just needing to reground myself in a bigger way than what I can normally do for myself, I scheduled another Reiki session. And so this Reiki session, in the days leading up to it, it said, whatever's holding me back from my spiritual path, my journey, I want it released. And so I go into this with the just intent of releasing whatever needed to go. I had nothing specific in mind. It was just whatever needed to go. And I go into this. She cut 4 different cords during this session, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And what I could see during this session was absolutely incredible. What I saw in the beginning was a lot of sunlight. It was the color yellow. I'm again in my kind of happy place in this forest, and I'm experiencing a lot of the warmth of the sun. I'm seeing a lot of yellow, some orange kind of way off on my peripheral vision, but really it was the yellow that was kind of front and center. That yellow became a white. It just brightened to the point where it became this really warm white energy, and that completely engulfed me. And I had that for the rest of the session. During this session though, the part that was really amazing to me was this time around, I didn't just go to another level. I actually left. I was so far off the earth. I was in the atmosphere, and I was able to look down and see everything kind of from a very far distance. But it was the connection to other people that just stuck with me and will stick with me. I do not see myself ever getting rid of this memory. It imprinted pretty heavily on me. So I'm up there and I look over to my right. Initially, I thought I was alone, because in all these sessions, I've been alone. In my meditation, I'm alone. And when I look off into the right, I see what almost looks like aliens off into the distance. And I'm looking, and they're not moving. They're just kind of like hovering, that energy, just hovering. It's almost like wispy kind of energy. And the more I focused on them, the more I realized that they're souls. Then it was the cord that I saw connecting everybody. That was amazing, being able to see that cord connecting all of us. And I kept trying to look over to the left, and I could not look over to the left, my left. And it was a struggle, but I'm also very strong-willed. So at one point during the session, I made myself look over to the left, and I saw more souls on that side, but I didn't spend a lot of time there because it just didn't feel right to be focused on that space. I was very focused on the right side of me, but it wasn't even just that, because I am usually alone. And so to see all of these souls and to feel, it was in my lower back that I could feel the connection to other people. So this was going through my person, and we're all connected. And it just really came through so crystal clear in this Reiki session. But it wasn't even just that. I never give away a lot of details, and I don't talk about things, but I do have a twin flame. And my twin showed up in the reading. This is somebody that our lives have pretty much run parallel. And we met 2 years ago, and it's been off and on. There's definitely been some issues more outside of the relationship than actually within the relationship. We both have had our own kind of just troubles there. And so in this space, because I am connected to everybody, he showed up. And he showed up, and I could actually feel the connection, just my entire front, like just this solid connection, almost no space between us. When I was focused on the connection, there was a little bit of space between us because I was trying to hone in on that. But in general, there was no disconnect between us because we are two halves of one soul. And so he was completely right here with me during this entire process. And it's just absolutely fascinating that he was showing up. But it wasn't even just that. I wasn't focused so much on that connection because we are one in a lot of ways. Physically on this earth, we're two different people, but I think you get what I'm saying. But it wasn't even just that. Then I had a dragon that showed up here, and it was a red dragon. And the red dragon was partially obstructed by him and by his person. And because I could see like his head was partially blocking this dragon was just right there, hovering, staring right at me. And I was like a crimson red. And it was absolutely fascinating. And I'm just looking at this dragon, but it didn't look like a normal dragon that you would see. It was a hybrid of sorts. So it was a much smaller dragon. And I really wanted to ride the dragon. So I do end up riding the dragon in the session, which I forgot to mention to Angie at the end, but absolutely fascinating here because then I look up the dragon and that completely aligns with everything that I was experiencing and everything that I've been feeling. And so I don't know, I wanted to come on here and share just how connected all of us are and just kind of where we are on this path and this journey. And I loved to see just the strength of the bond, and it's going to continue to strengthen. And that's just the energy that I'm picking up on. So anyway, I hope that you found this video at least somewhat enjoyable. I don't, again, talk a lot about me, and I don't ever mention my twin flame unless you've done a personal reading and I say something in that. But for the most part, I do try to keep myself out of the readings just because they're about you. I want you to have the information you need. I do my own readings separately so that I don't influence it. I don't want an interest in the outcome. So anyway, I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope you're able to find some sort of grounding energy during this eclipse. I know for me, myself, I had that cord cutting that took place during the session. So 4 cords for me were released, and my energy is definitely much brighter as a result of it. So hopefully you're able to capture some of that as well. Anyway, I will record the video soon, so let's see what this elevation and energy does. I will see you soon. Take care.